Okay.
Hello everyone. Hello and welcome to the first phase of our JPACT program, which is starting with the manual testing for beginners. So going forward for the next few sessions, our focus is entirely going to be around how do we start to learn and master the manual testing, which is the fundamental basic start for any professional who's getting into software testing. So Mahesh is going to be our trainer, and he's going to walk through a lot of information as to what we're going to cover as part of today's agenda, and we'll take it forward from there. Thanks Mahesh, on to you please.
Yeah. Hi all. This is Mahesh, and I'll be continuing on the manual testing training. Okay. After Karthik gives a brief, I'll be showcasing what you can expect from these trainings. Okay, from the manual testing perspective. Hey, Karthik.
Of this, yes, of this manual testing program is to get you the basic fundamentals of the entire software testing lifecycle and how it can fit into a very practical project-based approach. So like we always do at HighLevel, we will not take it as a concept, but more as a project-based approach. And to be able to perform that, we're going to take one of elements into our existing application that can be used for our learning purpose, and using that application we're going to be focusing on the complete testing life cycle. It's going to be focused purely on the manual testing area, so we will not focus too much in terms of tools usage, even the tools like HPLM, which is the quality center, or Jira Bugzilla. We will focus purely in terms of what the overall testing life cycle will be, how we'll start with it, and how we implement the various best practices that so once I goes through a few slides, I will presenting to you the application that we will use for our practice and for your learning, which is on AnyOt, the UI. You continue with the slides and presentation that you have to begin with, and then primarily the content of what we're going to cover, and then we will talk about the AnyOt application overview.
All right. So before we start, right, I just want to emphasize what are the different roles in the software industry are, and many of you might already be doing. But if we understand the roles perfectly, then we'll be understanding what a tester has to be done and what are the limitations in the industry that we are confined to, and how we have to overcome them. Okay. So the first and foremost thing, one is customer. Customer has a software product that need to be developed, and he or she might shoot out the requirements. Now this is where the entire testing will start. The reason being, the customer, if he is not qualitative, correct, complete, and informative, whatever requirement that is being developed will not be correct. So that's where the role of testers will come into picture, and how it is done and what are the areas that will be covered under the manual testing will plays a major role. So as part of this training, we will start right from the customer perspective, and right from the requirements definition itself, how a tester is involved, what is the role the tester will play in making sure the requirements are perfectly defined, so that the design and the further testing will go smooth. Okay, so we need to understand the customer also. Okay, and then we have the project manager who will be taking care of the entire product. Okay, this is the crucial point, or this responsibility is very crucial for any software project. The reason being, the estimations, the project funding, budgeting, everything is done by this person, right? So from a software tester perspective, somewhere down the line, we might also act as a project manager. Now, how does a role of tester will mold or change into a project manager is all the experience that he or she have in the software testing project, okay, or the software development project. Now, this particular training will help you in grooming yourself from a regular software tester to an analyst, test analyst, and then to a project manager. Okay, so you can expect that sort of grooming from this training. Now, the software developer is someone who is developing the actual project. Okay, this is self-explanatory. But how does that have an impact on the testing team or the testing group is will play a major role in the success of the project. Okay, it's obviously a Tom and Jerry fight between the developers and testers, and it has to be like that. Okay, now by doing that fight, still you can get a qualitative product with maintaining a hygiene relationship between the developer and tester. Okay, so apart from the regular manual testing that we have in our regular trainings, this particular training will give you a next level to maintain the healthy relationship between the developers and as well as the customers, and how to get the testing activities done without any hindrances. Okay, now this is the most important, I mean this is the slide or the picture that I always depict in all the trainings. Okay, now where does a tester role fit? Okay, why a tester is required at all? The reason being, right, in the industry there's a feeling that testers are the last leg, our testing is the last leg in the software development. But from my experience or whatever projects I have worked, they are the most or the core persons in the software development lifecycle. The reason being this picture. So a customer is expecting this, as there are many persons or many people involved and many roles involved, how they look at each other is different. Okay, so a project leader is looking like this. This picture might depict that, but then again, how individual persons will look into the requirements, it might change from one person to the other person, right? So that's the reason a tester should be in line with the customer as well as the software development tool that is being used. Not all tools might have the expertise or the technology to prepare the product that is expected by the customer. Okay, so not just from the functional perspective, even from the technical perspective, the tester has to be prepared well enough to make sure whether the product that is being developed is as per the customer requirement or not. Okay, so this picture depicts everything. You have to understand the business of customer, the need of customer, the tool that is being used to develop this particular product, okay, and how it is being developed, and the process that is used to develop this product. So these are the 5 key areas for any project to have a successful journey, right? So in all these 5 areas, the role of tester is very important. Okay, so hope this training will give a boost to your career and make you feel that you are on the right path. Now, uh, from this testing perspective, there are 5 core areas in any testing. Okay, we are not going on a regular training area where we will be depicting everything, but here I want to give an overall picture where what you will be doing as a tester and how should you do it to make sure all these 5 areas are covered perfectly and strategically and in a process oriented form. Okay, so as part of this training we'll go through all these 5 areas: requirements, how do you do the gathering, how do you understand them, how do you clarify it, what is the process of getting it clarified, and based on the requirements, how do you create your test plan? Okay, so test plan again is most important from testing perspective, where you will be telling these are the areas that I will be testing and this is the effort I would be requiring and these are the resources who will be working on these areas of software development. Okay, and once that is done, you will have to develop your test conditions where you will have to identify the business scenarios, the technical scenarios which will be impacting the product that is being developed. And once that are done, you will start writing your test cases. So how do you do that? What are the test cases that you will be writing based on the product that is being developed? Where do you park them? How do you use the testing process uh, in line with your test cases that are being written? So whether it's a system test or an integration test, or whether it's a regression suite, or whether it's a sanity check that you're doing, how do you park those test cases based on the type of testing you are doing? Okay, and then how do you execute them? Okay, so what's the tool that you will be using uh, to make sure the all the test cases are executed and you don't have any issue uh, in leaving off or forgetting any of the test sets or test scenarios. Okay, and then finally, the most important thing from the management perspective is the test reports. So how do you create them? What are the columns that goes into the test reports, the execution reports? How do you report your defects? What is the defect life cycle? So these are the 5 fundamental areas in any of the testing life cycle. Okay, and these will be covered as part of this training in respect to the tool or the live project that we will be doing, and that is AnyAuth. Okay, which Karthik will take from here on. Karthik, can you please?
Yeah, let me make myself the presenter. So team, as a prerequisite to this day one for the manual testing training that we're doing, I'm assuming each of you have seen our common orientation video with JPACT. If you have not watched that, you should watch it, please. So let me make myself the presenter and quickly walk you through a couple of things there. Where is the JPACT? All right.
I made you,
So
Karthik.
once, right, I'm there. So once you are in JPACT homepage, which you'll find under the upcoming events at HighLevel, and you click on the job placement and certified training program, you have both the orientation session videos. You must watch the second video of it, please, because that video will give you a complete detailed overview of what we're doing, our schedule, and the entire plan. Now, apart from this, the application that we're going to actually be working is the AnyAuth. So please do note that AnyAuth is the automation framework that we are developing with HighLevel and Atomic 77, and this is going to be a framework which will focus totally on using Selenium WebDriver. One second. It's going to use Selenium WebDriver along with Java team. Oops. What happened? I guess there's a lag of my drawing that's coming out onto the screen. Not drawing mode. Okay. So this application that we are developing is the user interface that is gonna be overlapping on AnyAuth. So for those of you who have not watched the video of job placement and certified training, you must watch that, because that will give you the complete details of what I'm talking about right now. So what is AnyAuth, how it has been developed so far, what are the important modules that happen in that framework, and so on. Now, the reason I'm showing you this as an application is because Mahesh is going to show you if we have ENIOT as an application to perform the testing on. So please do understand the difference. While ENIOT is a framework that is being developed, it is also a software product which has got a web user interface. So that web interface is what you're going to help to test on. So all the details of what ENIOT is, to the extent that you need to know, is available in the JPACT second session. Now, here is a quick link which is currently in the dev environment. What are the environments? How do we work on them? How do we host these applications before we take it live? Is something Mahesh will keep guiding you as we keep going forward. But the intent is for you to understand the overall functionality of the application from a web UI perspective, also from a database perspective, how the databases are linked with it, so you can also perform database testing and be able to create all the test artifacts that are required. Now, here is a simple user login screen. If you notice, there is a user sign up form out here, which is still not functional. Please do note, team, this is not a functional application that is ready for testing yet. It is a prototype in the making. The front end is being developed. The back end coding is coming along with it. When you start being a test engineer, like Mahesh was saying, that you don't have to start at the very last stage of the development process. We can start much ahead and go with the flow. So I'm giving you a very, very quick overview of the application UI. At the same time, there are also some documentation that you can take a look, or Mahesh will slowly start sharing with the team members. That will give you a deeper insight. So let me quickly see if I have that accessible. Yes. So we have put everything into a Google Drive, and we have created the high-level documentation at length as to what the entire application is going to do and how it will perform, what will be contained in it. There is also the functional requirement document that we're working on. This is various versions that are going in right from the user module, test setup module, what happens in each and every module. All the details are mentioned out here. Okay, and then so the 4 basic modules is like as we shown in this slide: test setup, run setup, test run or test execution, and then the test results. So in the same lines with this, we are creating this front end. Is everyone with me? Anyone totally confused what we're trying to do? Now is a good time to speak out and let me know, please. When I say speak out, you can use the chat option in the chat that you have, Q&A, and let me know. Any questions so far, team? What we're trying to do here? So like I said, Mahesh will be walking you through the testing process. I'm giving you an overview of the application. So if your question is about what is ENIOT, then you have not watched the JPACT second session, and that is the reason you should go and watch that, please. This is the app you're going to be testing. We will do more as a practice, but when we do live project, you can get into the actual testing of it as well. But Mahesh will show you the fundamentals, beginnings, and how we go about it. It is not going to be possible to create a complete end-to-end testing life cycle in the given 5 to 7 sessions that we will have as part of the manual testing basic training, but he will be able to cover the most key aspects of it on a given small scope of the functionality. All right, Mahesh? Am I right on it?
Yes, Karthik. So
Okay.
I'll be giving you the overview also, so don't worry about it. but not onto the core. Okay, but whatever training that will be happening for these next 7 days, that would suffice more for you with respect to the manual testing. Okay.
Right. So the point we're trying to make out here, team, is that to create a complete testing project for this kind of an application is a humongous effort. It will take a few weeks and months with a few test engineers working together. So we're going to show you the complete test life cycle, but for limited scope and functionality as part of the training. When it comes to live project, that is where you will actually go deep and start working on everything. Let me quickly log in and show you how the application is going to look. So here's the starting point. The dashboard is yet to come, but we start with something called as the test setup. The test setup starts with the whole purpose of any once again team is to be able to automate any application under test, to be able to quickly create automation test scripts that can be executed with a lot of ease and without too much of complexity in the coding aspect of automation testing. So the backend is still Selenium WebDriver with core Java, but the front end is a simple web UI that will help users to enter and maintain details of what they want to test. So the first screen is about the application under test. This is the AUT. All right. So once we enter the information as to what application is it that we're testing, we go to the next screen. We add the modules related to that application to it. So for each application, there could be multiple modules. So for example, if you look at this application that we're testing, it has got these 4 modules apart from the admin and user registration modules and so on. Then for each module that we add, we will go about adding the test cases. Test cases talk about one simple start to end execution of a given functionality that also is a user defined test case or use case that we say that we will need to be able to certify that yes, that functionality is working. And with each test case, what we will have are the test steps. So if you look at, it's like a tree. One application under test, multiple modules under that AUT, multiple test cases under each module, multiple test steps under each test case. So this screen is a little bit more advanced, as not only do I select which module is it that we're going to be working with, we also will have to select the test case, give a test step ID, a description, some keyword, element ID and test data. So all this information is entered and stored using this web UI. Do note once again, the database has not yet been linked to it, so it's really not form submission right now. But irrespective of the development life cycle, you know that the development is ongoing. You can start preparing your testing artifacts. When I say artifacts, all the documentation, the simple documents, be it in an Excel or Word document or using any notepad, also a simple tool, as to what is it that you're going to be testing. This is the high-level overview for the first test setup module. Now, one of the most important things that you have to understand, and which was also depicted in the slide that Mahesh showed, is your fundamental authority on the application. How strong is your domain skill or the functional skill? How well do you know the behavior of the application? That is very, very critical, team. And do not mix this with any certification for the tester or developer. That is a much more advanced zone. So for the scope of the training, please keep your understanding very laser focused, and the fact that yes, this is a UI where a user can log in and is able to enter details about the application and what is need to be tested and so on. To understand the depth and the actual utility of this any application will take a significant amount of time. So our focus is not for you to master the application, but for you to really master the testing life cycle and how to be an amazing manual test engineer. All right. So this is the application that Mahesh will use to showcase how we go about achieving our testing results. How do we approach typically such a project? Where do we start and where do we go forward from? Right from the documentation to the delivery. And also do note, like any other software or IT project, documentation is not always handed to you in like a silver plate team. A lot of times you will notice that the documentation is limited or is not complete, but then the testing has to still go on. So there is the added responsibility or duty that we have to overcome the challenge and still continue with it. Because end of the day, if a defective product comes out of a IT team, it is not just the developers who are to blame. The testers in fact take equal or more blame for it. And that is where we need to have a strong foothold to guarantee that yes, this specific application is with 90% confidence or 95 or 99% confidence that it will work. All right. Now, any questions on applications, let me know. If you ask me the question, what is the difference between run setup, test run, and so on, then you have not watched the earlier video. And like I said, I will be doing one demo team, a product walkthrough next week on it. But then by then, mostly the training will also be completed for the manual testing. So your role and responsibility is to be very laser focused that yes, how do I learn testing, and as Mahesh goes through the complete process, what are the bits and pieces of the application that you need to know. All right. Any questions, team? So Mahesh,
Yeah.
why don't you continue from your end?
Yeah.
And if there are any questions, I can pitch in meanwhile.
So let me make myself presenter. Okay. So there was a question from Asha that whether it's an app that we're going to test. Okay. So let me give an overview of this thing. See, any software product, it can be a web application, okay, or it can be a mobile app. Apart from this, you have a backend of from database perspective or data warehouse. Okay, so typically these are the four applications that we will be testing generally. Okay, now apart from this, you will have the internal or the subparts of these applications like web services.
It can also be a desktop app. Mahesh.
Yeah, it can be a mobile app or desktop app. Okay. Now, apart from these, you will have the subparts of these applications like web services testing, or you can have something like the integrations. Okay, integrations testing. Now, whatever is the type of application that you are testing, the approach may not be the same. Okay, it varies from one application to the other application, or one type of testing to the other type of testing. Now, as part of this training, you will have a feel of how do you what is the approach that you will have to take to make sure your testing is effective and at least near to 100% complete. Okay, so the application that we are going to use now is a web application. Apart from this, the backend to it is a database. This one will also be showcased as part of this project, this live training. and you will understand how do you do the database testing as well as the web application testing. Okay, Asha, hope it answered your question. And there was another question on while we have access to Google Drive. Yes, you will be having the access, but not the Google Drive. You will get a link where you will be having the access. Okay.
Mahesh, like when you're going through this documentation, you'll be creating a new Google Drive folder
Yes.
for this manual testing itself, and every team member will have access to it. So all the documentation and files that we create as part of the training will be placed in the folder, and you will all have access to it, team.
Okay. There's a question by Sharad. Do I need to know the concepts of manual testing for any art if I want to do a Selenium and any art developer course? It would be better if you will have the concepts of manual testing, but Karthik would be the better person to answer this question. Karthik?
So yeah, when it comes to automation testing, this is what I strongly believe. While the concepts of manual testing will come handy any day, it is not mandatory. Now, if the question is more, do I need to know manual testing on any yacht before I get into the Selenium training on any yacht? Not necessarily. They can be two parallel wings. And in fact, on the same webinar link, in the next 1 hour, we'll be starting the Selenium day 1, and we're using the same application for automation testing as well. So at that time, I'll be expanding on that overall. So the answer to it is not necessary. We take them independently, and the members who are attending can attend both the manual testing along with automation testing training parallelly. So that is the choice based on your time and bandwidth. All right. Thanks, Mahesh.
All right. Any other questions, team? Okay. See, as part of this training, right, there are 10 core areas that any tester should be ready while they are into the software testing. Okay, and these are the 10 that are mentioned here. You need to be ready with the strategy that you want to use while testing it. Okay, this strategy will be not same for all the applications that you are testing. It will differ from one application to the other application. The process that is being used, okay, will also define your strategy. Okay, as part of this training, you will be showcased how you will have to define your strategy based on the application that's being under test. Okay, and once your strategy is placed, which is your master test plan that you will create before the start of the project, and then you will define the test plan. Okay, based on the sub part of the application, you will have to define your plan. Okay, now I'll tell you a real-time scenario where initial of a project you might not have many resources or many testers. Okay, now going through as and when you are familiar with the product, you might add or cut down the resources. Okay, so in that scenarios you may not be having much time, or the timelines may be very stringent that you may not be able to do the complete testing. Okay, at times you have to do risk-based testing. Okay, again these are the words, the jargons you might not be able to understand now. Few might understand, but in this course you will be understanding what is the risk-based testing, how do you have to plan it, how do you have to mitigate it. Okay, and then how do you do things, that will be defined by the scenarios that you are coming up on the application. Okay, again these test scenarios will differ from one application to the other application. The baseline for all this is the understanding about the domain that you are testing, which is nothing but the product that the customer is developing. Based on that, your test cases will be defined, or the scenarios will be defined. Okay, one second. Okay, and then the accept for testing. See, what happens is at times we might not be having a complete picture about the business or what exactly the customer is expecting. Okay, and considering the timelines and the resource crunch and the time gap that we have, or the technical gap we have as a tester, we might not cover all the test scenarios. Okay, so this is where you need to get the acceptance from the customer or the respective project manager from the client side, saying that, hey, because of these constraints or because of these, or this is what my expectation is, this is what my understanding is, and I am giving you the high level, what are the scenarios that I have covered. So if it is fine, let's go ahead, or if not, then you will have to add. Now it is as same as you are conducting a sanity test well before the product has come into picture. Okay. So sanity test is nothing but you are doing a high level testing. So how do you do that? How do you make sure you cover these areas? We'll go through in this training. Okay. Next is the execution of tests. Okay. Now, if you have to start something, you cannot directly jump into the entire product, or you cannot test everything at one go. Okay. You have to define it in a layered by layer approach where you will start with the core requirement of the testing. Then you will test the features, add-on features that are present in that particular application. Okay. So a simple example is the purpose of Gmail is to send emails, right? If you are not able to send the emails and receive the emails, there is no point of testing whether the Google Drive is accessible through Gmail, or can you see the photos of Gmail, or do you have your name correctly defined in the Gmail, right? So these are all features, but the base is sending and receiving the emails, right? So when you have to execute the test cases, what will be your core, or how will you start executing, what's your approach will also define the success of that particular software testing. Okay, so how do you do that, or how you will define your strategy will be explained, so as an example. Okay, and then act. So you see the results, you found bugs which are, or defects which are or high severity, and your execution is not is stalled, or you cannot continue. So how do you act? How do you escalate it? How do you make sure they are resolved in timely manner? Okay. So there's a concept called as SLA, service level agreement, where if it's a very process oriented project, you will have to make sure the high level defects are sorted out on the same day itself. Okay, because of which, the reason being, there are many resources in that particular testing project, and you might not have ample space or budget to make all the resources sit idle, right? So in these scenarios, how you should react, how you should escalate the issues, how you should see the results, how do you interpret the results will also make you an effective or a good tester. Okay, so we will showcase few scenarios where you can make use of these results and get it done. Okay, and then verify. Now, when you find a defect, they have to be fixed, right? So how do you validate them? Now, say suppose in the Gmail application itself, your Google Drive link is not present. Okay, is it affecting your email sending and receiving process? No, right? So when I get a fix for Google Drive, I'll verify whether I'm able to open the Google Drive, whether I'm able to add or delete or modify anything in the Google Drive. There's nowhere I can have there's nowhere where where I need to test whether I'm able to send or receive emails, right? So when you revalidate or you validate your defect fixes that are done, what's your approach of testing, right? So how do you conduct your regression? This go hand in hand, all right? So that will showcase few of the examples using the AnyOut application that we are doing. The beauty of using AnyOut now is that particular application is under development, right? So you will have a feel how a real-time application, I'm extremely sorry, here. So this is also real-time application. So you will have a feel how in a real-time scenario the developers react, how a tester will react, how do you escalate the issues, how do you get the clarifications to your requirement, right? So that's the beauty of using AnyOut now. So the same, these verifying and assess will help you in making sure that your defect fix is not affecting any of the application, other parts of the application. Okay. Now, once that is done and you are saying that, hey, I am ready with this product and this is being tested and this has been tested perfectly, you will have to give it to the release. Now, how does it happen? You will have a UAT. UAT is user acceptance testing before it goes into production. Now, what are the UAT activities? How will you support UAT team? How will you support the BVT, that is business verification team? So that is also key for from testing perspective. Okay, not all test scenarios that are written here will be part of UAT. Okay, so how do you differentiate them? How do you do those activities will also be trained in this particular training. And last but not the least is the change request. Okay, you might get a last minute change. Okay, so how do you mitigate that, whether it's agreeable or whether it's affecting the existing application or not? So how will you analyze that? Okay, what all goes in as part of these change request? What are the areas that you need to cover? That we will give an idea as part of this training. So it's more of real-time environment that we will be covering rather than the concepts as part of this training. This is what we can expect from this training. Okay. So this is it from me for today. Any questions? Yeah, there's a question from Kirutika, which is high-level testing means testing the basic functionalities of an application. Yeah, a part of it. So basic functionalities as well as if you give any input to it, how does it react? As a user, right? If you take Gmail itself as an example, you will send you are supposed to send email, receive email, and if you send it to trash, you should not see them. So these are the high level. So how do you do that? You will create one, you will send one, you will see whether it's there in sent email. If you delete one, you will see it in the trash. If you delete from trash, it should go, right? So these are the high level scenarios. Okay. You have an option where you can delete all the trash messages. So that might not be your high level functionality. Okay, you can skip that from your high level testing. Okay. Okay, Radhika is asking difference between regression and validate fix. Okay. See, there are two things. One, if if the defect fix comes in the same release, you will be validating that fix. Okay. If you are getting the fix in the next release, then that is called as regression. The basic difference. Okay. So that's the difference between the validating that fix in the same release and regression testing. There's another question from Kushal. What web service testing and integration testing? Okay. So web services testing is you are interacting between the multiple applications, right? So if that sort of testing it is done, then it's called as web services testing. It's like simple. You have a database and you have a front-end application. So how does the interaction happen, right? So that's the back end of it. Now integration testing is you are making sure whether the application pages or the integration between the database and the front end is happening. Like you write something in the front end whether it's populating in the database or not. Okay. And if you retrieve something from the front end, whether it's coming into the front end or not from the database. So that's your integration test. Okay.
And team, those were just answers that Mahesh is providing as the questions came up. But then the whole purpose of this training is to go in depth in these concepts. But like we said, we're going to use an application as a sample to walk you through how the testing activity is going to be done. All right.
All right. Any other questions, team?
So let me take a minute and give you a high-level idea of how this training will proceed. We have 2 days of 1 hour session each, or as we cover the topics planned for those 2 days, that is today and tomorrow, followed by about 3 to 4 sessions, which is going to be 1.5 hours each team. So the 90-minute sessions, another 4 sessions after that, is about 7 to 8 hours in total of training, and that will cover the most important starting aspects of the manual testing. The next training after this is going to be around the tools that we use for test management and so on, and that's going to be some additional training. So please look at the JPACT page to get an overall idea of the schedule and how things are planned. For some of you who are taking this as a demo session, please do note that we do not have enough gap in between to be able to get you onto it, the live paid sessions. So it is for you to take a call and join at the earliest, because after we finish the demo sessions on this webinar link, which is today and tomorrow, we will be using a totally different GoToWebinar account where the paid sessions will continue. So you will automatically be registered there by my team if you are someone who's already a premium member or paid for this ongoing training. If you're not, then you will have to opt in for it by completing a payment process, and then we can take you forward from there. All right. So a couple more questions that are coming up, Mahesh. I'll quickly try and answer. Let me try and read this. This is a very large question, so I'm going to try and read it as is and understand along with you all. Hi Karthik, I need your help in deciding which courses, classes I need to take from HighLevel to understand automation framework. Currently, I'm testing lead within my department and mostly been doing manual testing. The management is asking me to come up with automation plan as to how to implement it. I have no idea or experience in automation testing and wanted to take a course which will teach me how to build automation framework plan for my department. Yes, so Ahmed, for you, this manual testing training that is there will be very basic and you can skip this totally. You can go directly for the Selenium training that we're starting in the next half an hour on the same link. In that 2 to 3 weeks program will be more than sufficient for you to get started. And when we start that session, I will guide you more. So a couple more questions that I have, team. I'm going to quickly them and answer. Is the JPACT training page schedule the most accurate version? The start dates are accurate, team, but do note that what we believe is sometimes, though we say that we will do 6 sessions or 7 sessions, it may continue to an 8th or 9th, because very important for us to cover topics, and it is not the PowerPoints or slides that we show going forward. So I can't really say that yes, we will complete it, but typically there'll be about plus or minus 20%. It's never minus of bleeding that will happen in terms of the time frame. So please put that into your schedule as well. Is there any installment for JPACT? So Kushal, for that you need to contact the team, the sales team. They will guide you on it. I am not sure myself. But I believe if you take it through PayPal, they have an installment option automatically there, where you can take a 6 months monthly payment option, if I'm not wrong. Any other questions before we wind up today's session? And just letting you know, same webinar link will be there for tomorrow, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 a.m. India, to continue on the manual testing training by Mahesh. The same link again is being used for the Selenium training, which is starting at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. That's in the next half an hour. So I'm just going to take any more questions that come up. Are the trainings completely job focused? This is a question from Asha. At HighLevel, all the trainings are job focused. When we say job focused, very simple. Is this training theoretical, or is this training more hands-on and practical? Our trainings are very project based. They're absolutely hands-on, they're absolutely practical in nature. So we don't believe in theory. For example, all the content that Mahesh has shown you in these slides, that's about the amount of slides typically that you will see, but you'll go through more as a practical example on a project. In that project application, I already showed you what we're going to use to learn manual testing using. Mahesh, were you saying something in between?
Yeah, there's a question from Olina. How do you group your test cases if you have different types of testing and different functionalities? Okay, the question is, if you have the application that is being tested, if you have a complete idea, you will write your test case irrespective of the type of testing you are doing. Okay. Now, once you have written your test cases according to the functionality, then you can group, saying that, say suppose a simple example, let's take of Gmail itself. Okay, now I will write test case for login page, and then I'll write test case for landing page, and then I'll write test case for sending email. So these are individual test cases. Now when I have to write my integration test case, how will I write? I'll write whether I'm able to send an email or not. So for this, the starting page will be the URL, then the login, then the landing page, and then clicking on draft or new email and writing your details and sending it. So that's my complete integration test, right? So what are you doing? You're clubbing all the individual test cases and making one single test case, and you're testing it. So the core will be the same. You'll write test cases for each and every functionality, and then based on the type of testing, you will group them. Okay. Hope it answered your question, Alina.
The other question is from Ruxana. Are we going to remain on the same webinar for the next session to start? Yes, the same link, but we will end this webinar and start it again in 30 minutes. So you can join in at that time. All right, I believe that's good for day one then. Thanks, Mahesh. Thank you, team. Thank you all for participating, joining in. We'll see you back tomorrow.
Yep. Thanks everyone for joining today. We'll join back tomorrow on the manual testing. Okay.
Bye all.
Bye all.